Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Pichana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotra Shatashi Shamad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai All glories to the Assembled Devotees All glories to the Assembled Devotees All glories to the Assembled Devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 14, Performance of the Vrindavan Pastimes, text 23. After this, Vaninath Roy brought all kinds of prasadam, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted lunch with the devotees. The king also sent a large quantity of prasadam to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy, and Vaninath Roy. The prasadam sent by the king had been offered at the Balagandi festival and included uncooked milk products and fruits. It was all of the finest quality, and there was no end to the variety. There were curd, fruit juice, coconut, mango, dried coconut, jackfruit, various kinds of bananas, and palm fruit seeds. There were also oranges, grapefruit, tangerines, almonds, dry fruit, raisins, and dates. There were hundreds of different types of sweetmeats like Manohara Ladu, sweets like Amrita Gutika, and various types of condensed milk. There were also papayas and Saravati, a type of orange, and also crushed squash. There were also regular cream, fried cream, and a type of puri made with cream. There were also the sweets known as Hari Vallabha, and sweets made of sanoti flowers. Karpul flowers and malati flowers. There were pomegranates, sweets made with black pepper, sweets made with fused sugar, and amrita jalebi. There were lotus flower sugar, a kind of bread made from urad dal, crispy sweetmeats, sugar candy, fried rice sweets, sesame seed sweets, and cookies made from sesame seeds. There were sugar candy sweetmeats formed in the shape of orange, lemon, and mango trees, and arranged with fruits, flowers, and leaves. There were yogurt, milk, butter, buttermilk, fruit juice, a preparation made of fried yogurt and sugar candy, and salty mung dal sprouts with shredded ginger. There were also various types of pickles, lemon pickle, berry pickle, and so on. Indeed, I am not able to describe the variety of food offered to Lord Jagannath. When Lord Chaitanya saw half of the garden filled with a variety of prasadam, he was very satisfied. Indeed, Lord Chaitanya was fully satisfied just to see how Lord Jagannath accepted all the food. There then arrived 5 or 7 loads of plates made of leaves of the katiki tree. Each man was supplied 10 of these plates. And in this way the leaf dishes were distributed. Lord Chaitanya understood the labor of all the kirtan chanters, therefore he was very eager to feed them sumptuously. All the devotees sat down in lines, and Lord Chaitanya personally began to distribute the prasadam. But the devotees would not accept the prasadam until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it. Srup Damodar informed the Lord of this. Srup Damodar said, "My Lord, please sit down to eat. No one will eat until you do." At that time, Lord Chaitanya sat down with his personal associates and had every one of them fed very sumptuously until they were filled to the necks. After finishing, the Lord washed his mouth and sat down. There was so much extra prasadam that it was distributed to thousands. Following the orders of Lord Chaitanya, Govinda, his personal servant, called for all the poor beggars who were unhappy due to their poverty and fed them sumptuously. Observing the beggars eating prasadam, Lord Chaitanya chanted Hari Bol and instructed them to chant the holy name. As soon as the beggars chanted the holy name, Hari Bol, they were immediately absorbed in the ecstatic love of God and in ecstatic love of Godhead. In this way, Lord Chaitanya performed his wonderful pastimes. Outside the garden, when it was time to pull Lord Jagannath's car, all the workers called Godas tried to pull it, but it would not move forward. When the Godas saw that they could not budge the car, they abandoned the attempt. Then the king arrived in great anxiety, and he was accompanied by his officers and friends. The king then arranged for big wrestlers to try to pull the car, and even the king himself joined in, but the car could not be moved. Becoming even more anxious to move the car, the king had very strong elephants brought forth and harnessed to it. The strong elephants pulled with all their strength, but still the car remained at a standstill, not budging an inch. So the Rath Yatra car is not moving. So they're trying to get elephants to move it. As soon as Lord Chaitanya heard this news, he went there with all his personal associates. They then stood there and watched the elephants try to pull the car. The elephants, being beaten by the elephant goad, were crying, but still the car would not move. The assembled people cried out, "Alas!" At that time, Lord Chaitanya let all the elephants go free and placed the car's ropes in the hands of his own men. Lord Chaitanya then went back to the car and began to push with his head. It was then that the car began to move and roll along, making a rattling sound. So Lord Chaitanya started pushing it with his head in the back, the big Rath Yatra car. Indeed, the car began to move automatically, and the devotees simply carried the ropes in their hands. Since it was moving ever so, they did not need to pull it. When the car moved forward, everyone began to chant with great pleasure, "Jai Jai, Jai Jagannath." No one could hear anything else. In a moment, the car reached the door of the Gundicha temple. So now the Rath Yatra car is reaching Gundicha temple. Upon seeing the uncommon strength of Lord Chaitanya, all the people were struck with wonder. The crowd made a tumultuous vibration, chanting Jai Gaur Chandra, Jai Chaitanya. Then the people began to chant, "Wonderful, wonderful." Seeing the greatness of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhu Maharaj and his ministers and friends were so moved by ecstatic love that their hair on their bodies stood on end. All the servants of Jagannath then took him down from the car, and then the Lord went to sit on his throne. So they took Jagannath down and they put him on the altar. Subhadra and Balarama also sat on their respective thrones. There followed the bathing of Jagannath and finally the offering of food. While Jagannath, Lord Balaram, and Subhadra sat on their respective thrones, Mahaprabhu and his devotees began to perform Sankirtan with great pleasure, chanting and dancing in the yard of the temple. While Chaitanya was chanting and dancing, he was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and all the people who saw him were also flooded in the ocean of love of Godhead. In the evening, after finishing his dancing in the yard of the Gundicha temple, the Lord observed the arti ceremony. Thereafter he went to a place called Aitota and took rest for the night. For 9 days, 9 chief devotees headed by Advaitacharya got an opportunity to invite the Lord to their homes. During the 4 months of the rainy season, the remaining devotees extended invitations to the Lord for 1 day each. In this way, they shared invitations. For the 4-month period, all the daily invitations were shared among the important devotees. The rest of the devotees did not get an opportunity to extend an invitation to the Lord. Since they could not get 1 day each, 2 or 3 devotees combined to extend an invitation. These are the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of invitations. After taking his bath early in the morning, Lord Chaitanya would go to see Lord Jagannath in the temple. Then he would perform Sankirtan with the devotees. By chanting and dancing, Lord Chaitanya induced Advaitacharya to dance. Sometimes he induced Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur, and Achyutananda to dance. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya engaged Rakeshwara and other devotees in chanting and dancing. 3 times daily, morning, noon, and evening, he would perform Sankirtan in the yard of the Gundicha temple. This time, Lord Chaitanya felt that Lord Krishna had returned to Vrindavan. Thinking this, his feelings of separation from Krishna subsided. Lord Chaitanya was always thinking of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and he remained personally merged in this consciousness. There are many gardens near the Gundicha temple, and Lord Chaitanya and his devotees used to perform the pastimes of Vrindavan in each of them. In the lake named Indrayumna, he sported in the water. The Lord personally splashed all the devotees with water, and the devotees surrounding him on all sides also splashed the Lord. While in the water, they sometimes formed 1 circle and sometimes many circles, and while in the water, they used to play cymbals and imitate the croaking of frogs. Sometimes 2 would pair off to fight in the water. One would emerge victorious and the other defeated, and the Lord would watch all this fun. The first sporting took place between Advaitacharya and Nityananda Prabhu, who threw water upon each other. Advaitacharya was defeated, and he later began to rebuke Nityananda Prabhu, calling him ill names. Srup Damodar and Vidyanidhi also threw water upon each other. And Murari Gupta and Vasudev Datta also sported in that way. Another duel took place between Srivas Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit, and yet another between Raghava Pandit and Rakeshwara Pandit. Thus they all engaged in throwing water. So this is Lord Chaitanya and his associates in a pond, fighting with each other, apparently splashing each other. Indeed, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya engaged in water sports with Sri Ramananda Roy, which is quite interesting because they're like, on one level, these are like really serious individuals, like sannyasis and learned scholars and like really high up devotees, and in many ways actually pretty serious. But it says here they're fighting in the water, splashing water and calling each other names and stuff like that. Indeed, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya engaged in water sports with Sri Ramananda Roy, and they both lost their gravity and became like children. When Lord Chaitanya saw the exuberance of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, he smiled and spoke to Gopinath Acharya. Tell the Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy to stop their childish play, because they are both learned scholars and very grave and great personalities. Gopinath Acharya replied, I believe that one drop of the ocean of your great mercy has swelled up upon them. A drop from the ocean of your mercy can drown great mountains like Sumeru and Mandara. Since these two gentlemen are little hills by comparison, it is no wonder that they are being drowned in the ocean of your mercy. Wow. This goes for a while. Long chapter. Logic is like a dry oil cake from which all the oil has been extracted. The Bhattacharya passed his life in eating such dry cakes, but now you have made him drink the nectar of transcendental pastimes. It is certainly your great mercy upon him. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was a great impersonalist. And when he met Lord Chaitanya, he made him a devotee. So this is saying that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he used to eat all these dry cakes in the form of, like, logic means it wasn't very palatable. Like if you invite someone to the Sunday feast and you don't give them something that's very pleasant, you give them like a dry cake or something, very dry, tasteless cake. So people aren't going to be very happy with that. So the analogy here was that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, through his logic and all these things, he was just eating these dry cakes. And then, by meeting Lord Chaitanya, it says, but now you have made him drink the nectar of transcendental pastimes. So now he's experiencing the bliss of life. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. After Gopinath Acharya finished talking, Lord Chaitanya smiled and, calling for Advaita Acharya, made him act like Shesha Nagbed. Lying down on Advaita Prabhu, who was floating on the water, Lord Chaitanya demonstrated the pastime of Sheshayi Vishnu. Manifesting his personal potency, Advaita Acharya floated about on the water, carrying Lord Chaitanya. After sporting in the water for some time, Lord Chaitanya returned to his place at Aitota, accompanied by his devotees. Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, and all the other chief devotees of Lord Chaitanya took lunch at the invitation of Advaita Acharya. Whatever extra prasadam was brought by Vaninath Roy was taken by the other associates of Lord Chaitanya. In the afternoon, Lord Chaitanya went to the Gundicha temple to visit the Lord and dance. At night, he went to the garden to take rest. The next day, Lord Chaitanya also went to the temple of Gundicha and saw the Lord. He then chanted and danced in the yard for some time. Accompanied by his devotees, Lord Chaitanya went into the garden and enjoyed the pastimes of Vrindavan. There were multifarious trees and creepers in the garden, and they were all jubilant to see Lord Chaitanya. Indeed, the birds were chirping, the bees were buzzing, and a cool breeze was blowing. Lord Chaitanya danced beneath each and every tree. Vasudev Dutt sang alone. As Vasudev Dutt sang a different song beneath each and every tree, Lord Chaitanya danced there alone in great ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya then ordered Rakeshwara Pandit to dance, and as he began to dance, the Lord began to sing. Then devotees like Swarup Damodar and other kirtan performers began to sing along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After sporting in the water, Lord Chaitanya returned to the garden and accepted prasadam with the devotees. For 9 continuous days, His Lordship, Sri Jagannath Dev, stayed at the Gundicha temple. During this time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also stayed there and performed the pastimes with his devotees that have already been described. The garden of his pastime was very large and was named Jagannath Vallabha. Lord Chaitanya took his rest there for 9 days. Knowing that the Hera Panchami festival was drawing near, King Pratapuruja attentively talked with Kashi Mishra. Tomorrow will be the function of Hari Panchami or Lakshmi Vijay. Hold this festival in a way that has never been held before. Purport. The Hera Panchami festival takes place 5 days after the Rath Yatra festival. Lord Jagannath has left his wife, the goddess of fortune, and gone to Vrindavan, which is the Gundicha temple. Due to separation from the Lord, the goddess of fortune decides to come to see the Lord at Gundicha. The coming of the goddess of fortune to Gundicha is celebrated as Hera Panchami. Sometimes this is misspelled as Hara Panchami among the Lativadis. The word Hera means to see and refers to the goddess of fortune going to see Lord Jagannath. The word Panchami means the 5th day and is used because this takes place on the 5th day of the moon. So yeah, Jagannath, he's in Gundicha, which is like Vrindavan, and he left Lakshmi back at the main Jagannath temple. So then Lakshmi, his wife, is going to see Jagannath at the Gundicha temple. That's what's being said here. King Prataprudra said, "Hold this festival in such a gorgeous way that upon seeing it, Lord Chaitanya will be immediately pleased and astonished. Take as many printed cloths, small bells, umbrellas, and chamras as there are in my storehouse and in the deity's storehouse. Collect all kinds of small and large flags and ringing bells, then decorate the carrier and have various musical and dancing parties accompany it. In this way, decorate the carrier attractively. You should also double the quantity of prasad and make so much that it will even surpass the Rath Yatra festival. Arrange the festival in such a way that Lord Chaitanya may freely go with all the devotees to visit the deity without difficulty." In the morning, Lord Chaitanya took his personal associates with him to see Lord Jagannath at Sundarachala. Purport: Sundarachala is the Gundicha temple. The temple of Jagannath at Jagannath Puri is called Nilachala, and the temple of Gundicha is called Sundarachala. Then Lord Chaitanya and his personal associates returned to Nilachala with great eagerness to see the apparently it's at the main Jagannath temple. Then Lord Chaitanya and his personal associates returned to Nilachala with great eagerness to see the Hera Panchami festival. Kashi Mishra received Lord Chaitanya with great respect, and taking the Lord and associates to a very nice place, he had them seated. After taking his seat, Lord Chaitanya wanted to hear about a particular mode of devotional service, so therefore, mildly smiling, he began to question Srup Damodar. Although Lord Jagannath enjoys his pastimes at Dwarka Dham and naturally manifests sublime liberty there, still, once a year he becomes unlimitedly eager to see Vrindavan. Pointing out the neighboring gardens, Lord Chaitanya said, "All these gardens exactly resemble Vrindavan, therefore Lord Jagannath is very eager to see them again." Externally, he gives the excuse that he wants to participate in the Rath Yatra festival, but actually wants to leave Jagannath Puri to go to Sundarachala, the Gundicha temple, a replica of Vrindavan. The Lord enjoys his pastimes day and night in various flower gardens there, but why does he not take Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, with him? Srup Damodar replied, "My dear Lord, please hear the reason for this. Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, cannot be admitted to the pastimes of Vrindavan. In the pastimes of Vrindavan, the only assistants are the gopis, but for the gopis, no one can attract the mind of Krishna." The Lord said, "Using the car festival as an excuse, Krishna goes there with Subhadra and Baladev. All the pastimes with the gopis that take place in those gardens are very confidential ecstasies of Lord Krishna, and no one knows them. Since there is no fault at all in Krishna's pastimes, why does the goddess of fortune become angry?" Srup Damodar replied, "It is the nature of a girl afflicted by love to become immediately angry upon finding any neglect on the part of her lover." While Srup Damodar and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were talking, the procession of the goddess of fortune came by. She was riding upon a golden palanquin carried by 4 men and bedecked with a variety of jewels. The palanquin was also surrounded by people carrying umbrellas, chamra, whisk, and flags, and it was preceded by musicians and dancing girls. The maidservants were carrying water pitchers, chumra whisk, and boxes for betel nuts. There were hundreds of maidservants, all attractively dressed and wearing valuable necklaces. In an angry mood, the goddess of fortune arrived at the main gate of the temple, accompanied by many members of her family, all of whom exhibited uncommon opulence. When the procession arrived, the maidservants of the goddess of fortune began to arrest all the principal servants of Lord Jagannath. The maidservants bound the servants of Jagannath, handcuffed them, and made them fall down at the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune. Indeed, they were arrested just like thieves who have all their riches taken away. Purport. When Jagannath starts his car festival, he gives assurance to the goddess of fortune that he will return the next day. When he does not return, the goddess of fortune, after waiting 2 or 3 days, begins to feel that her husband has neglected her. She naturally becomes quite angry. Gorgeously decorating herself and her associates, she comes out of the temple and stands before the main gate. All the principal servants of Lord Jagannath are then arrested by her maidservants, brought before her and forced to fall down at her lotus feet. So this is 134. When the servants fell down before the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune, they almost fell unconscious. They were chastised and made the butt of jokes and loose language. When Lord Chaitanya's associates saw such impudence exhibited by the maidservants of the goddess of fortune, they covered their faces with their hands and began to smile. Swarup Damodar said, "There is no egotistic pride like this within the 3 worlds. At least I have never seen or heard of it. When a woman is neglected and disappointed out of egotistic pride, she gives up her ornaments and morosely sits down on the ground, marking lines on it with her nails. I have heard of this kind of pride in Satyabhama, Krishna's proudest queen, and I have also heard of it in the gopis of Vrindavan, who are the reservoirs of all transcendental mellows. But in the case of the goddess of fortune, I see a different kind of pride. She manifests her own opulences and even goes with soldiers to attack her husband." Lord Chaitanya said, "Please tell me of the varieties of egoistic pride manifested in Vrindavan." Swarup Damodar replied, "The pride of the gopis is like a river flowing with hundreds of tributaries. The characteristics and modes of love are different in different women. Their jealous anger also takes on different varieties and qualities. It is not possible to give a complete statement about the different types of jealous anger manifest by the gopis, but a few principles may serve as an indication. There are 3 types of women experiencing jealous anger: sober women, restless women, and women both restless and sober. When a sober heroine sees her hero approaching from a distance, she immediately stands up to receive him. When he comes near, she immediately offers him a place to sit. The sober heroine conceals her anger within her heart and externally speaks sweet words. When her lover embraces her, she returns his embrace. The sober heroine is very simple in her behavior. She keeps her jealous anger within her heart, but with mild words and smiles she rejects the advances of her lover. The restless heroine, however, sometimes chastises her lover with cruel words, sometimes pulls his ear, and sometimes binds him with a flower garland. The heroine, who is a combination of sobriety and restlessness, also jokes with equivocal words. She sometimes praises her lover, sometimes blasphemes him, and sometimes remains indifferent. Heroines may also be classified as captivated, intermediate, and impudent. The captivated heroine does not know very much about the cunning intricacies of jealous anger. The captivated heroine simply covers her face and goes on crying. When she hears sweet words from her lover, she is very satisfied. So yeah, we could see that it's not Krishna consciousness is the greatest, you could say, display of personalism, in that it really goes into great detail about Krishna the person, and Srimati Radharani, and Lakshmi, and all these different personalities. So nowadays there are many people, which Prabhupada would call them fools and rascals, and they like to come up with all types of philosophy that says, oh, we're all one, and I'm God, you're God, and all these different types of nonsense things. And they write so many books, they have so many followers, thousands of followers. But ultimately, they're all actually just, they have no real stance. Means that what they're saying is not true, and is actually, you could say, harmful for people. This philosophy is harmful. Although it sounds good to people, oh, I'm God, you're God, oh, that sounds great. So therefore, Krishna consciousness is extremely important for everybody, because it teaches one how to be a real, first of all, a real human. And aside from being a real human, it teaches one how to be a devotee. It teaches one how to be a devotee, which practically means it teaches one how to be a real person again, rather than just like a resemblance of a person. The srimadbhagavatam would say, two-legged animal. So it means that there's humans walking around, but just because they're in human bodies, are they actually humans? There has to be some qualification to be a human. And that qualification is inquiry into the absolute truth beyond just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. There has to be some higher endeavors, some higher goals. That's the definition of a human. A human has higher goals than an animal. Whereas an animal human doesn't have higher goals, they just have base goals, which animals have. So therefore, everybody in the whole world is encouraged by Krishna, by the Srimad Bhagavatam, by devotees to rise above just the base desires and start desiring something higher, which is spiritual life. And then from there, not only is one, you could say, a human, but one becomes a devotee, or tries to become a devotee. And by doing that, one is able to have all these different transcendental emotions, and they're able to have their own transcendental personality manifest, rather than just going through life in the worst circumstance like an animal, but even in maybe a little better circumstance, not knowing really, you're kind of on, we're on the human platform, but we really don't know who we are. Our emotions, our mind, our intellect, who we are ultimately means the soul, the spirit soul. None of that is really refined. None of that is developed. None of that is inspired by, spiritual enlightenment. And then one just doesn't know who they are. And they live their whole life like that, not knowing who they are, their real selves. So we have to, if we want to know who we are, that means we have to become Krishna conscious. And until we become Krishna conscious, we actually don't know who we are. We're thinking, oh, I'm this body, I'm this age, this race, that race. I belong to America or wherever. But all this is just temporary illusion. So if we practice Krishna consciousness, we'll find out who we are. And that therefore it's the greatest contribution to human society, specifically knowledge. Because by ignorance, one doesn't know who they are, and they commit sinful activities, they commit abominable activities, and by those abominable activities, by those immoral activities, one suffers. One has to suffer because they're acting outside of their nature. So if people are enlightened by spiritual knowledge, then they will develop the power to not commit immoral activities. And then by not committing immoral activities, they won't suffer anymore. So therefore it's the greatest welfare work. Giving knowledge, spiritual knowledge, means distributing books, means following what are in the books, means we have to be an example of what is in the books, and have to know what's in the books. Srila Prabhupada said that devotees should know the books like lawyers know their law books. It means they're able to quote, or at least able to say where certain things are in the books for references. And he said we should know them threadbare, so it means we should know them, really know them, Krishna's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, the philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita, the philosophy in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we should know and be familiar with them. Not that, oh, well, I don't know what it means, I don't know what it says. So yeah, the idea is to learn the knowledge and to spread the knowledge as far as possible. And in this way we're actually contributing to something worthwhile. We're actually contributing to people's happiness, and specifically their getting out of ignorance, which is the whole problem. So yeah, these are such wonderful literatures, and they teach us how to be a person, how to be a devotee. So it's very important to read them and hear them and think about them, and try to live by them and spread them as far as possible. Then we'll be happy, and we could successful, and also do some service for Prabhupada and Hare Krishna movement. All right, does anyone have any? So we're going to stop. We're not going to read any further from Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's it. You could read on your own. So we'll just hear from the Bhagavatam, because we pretty much finished those 3 chapters. This one we pretty much finished today. If somebody wants to read the last, you could say, section of this chapter, you could, I guess, do it on your own time. Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to say? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
A well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks.
Yeah, that's true. That's what Prabhupada said, yeah. He said that in one purport. He said you can't tell a fool until he speaks. He may look very nice, but he said, oh man, this guy's a fool, from what he says. So, one devotee said, savages in suits. So, they're kind of savage-like, but they're wearing suits, so they don't really look savage because they're wearing suits. They're wearing nice shoes, polished shoes, and very expensive pants and shirt and coat, and automatically, oh, they're civilized, right? Well, I mean, not necessarily. What is it? He's the concrete jungle, right? There's the concrete jungle, and there's savages in suits. So Prabhupada would say this over and over and over and over and over and over again, so many times, what I'm saying. He would always say, urging people, oh, you have to think above these, eating, sleeping, meditating, think above. And that's not what life's about. That's animal life. You have to go beyond that, go beyond that. He would say that over and over and over again. And he would also say over and over, you're not the body, you're not the body, you're not the body. Because that's the general tendency, it's just this base kind of eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating, which eating is, people are eating, people are sleeping, people are mating, they're having their, whatever, romantic or, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, whatever, that's there, but it's like, that's all it's about. The whole life is just about that. And it's just about eating and sleeping. And then defending, which means fearing. It means that, carving out a very nice place in this world in which, we have health insurance, life insurance, this insurance, that insurance, so many things, because we're fearing, the future, what's going to happen. You could say it's intelligent, but that's all that's life's about, right? It's just defending myself from the disease and all the problems of the world. I'm just trying to defend myself. It's like a platform of fear. Everybody, you go to all these big houses all over La Jolla. Every single one of them has a security system. They have a nice little sign outside. I'm protected by whatever, ATD security system. Don't mess with my house. Or there's a sign there. It says, I saw a sign. It said, my dog can get to this fence in 30 seconds. Can you do that? In other words, don't jump over my fence. I have a dog that will attack you. So it's fearing, defense. So Prabhu would say over and over again, we have to go beyond that. Okay, those things may be there. Okay, fine. We're humans. It's similar things as animals. They may be there. But for just that to be there, that's a mistake. So we have to go beyond that. And that's Krishna consciousness. So.
Just a comment. So you were speaking about, when you finished up the book, you were speaking about these impersonalists. And one word that you mentioned that caught my attention was resemblance, or how the devotee resembles more so the actual human. And it was reminding me of a lecture that I had heard by Madhavananda Prabhu. And he was speaking on kind of the same thing, how, impersonalists, they may seem so advanced and so well kept and well together, whereas in devotee, in the line of devotion, like you were saying, there's a Krishna consciousness is it embodies all the wide range of emotions, and the devotees feel that. And so some may say, how can that be spiritual? That's just mundane. And even if a devotee is expressing some apparent faults, that's all wrong, it's all mundane, and yada yada. But he had given the analogy of those things, those two sides being compared to the tree, the reflection of the tree and the shadow of the tree, saying that this other side, the impersonalists, who say, there's no such emotions in spiritual life, and nobody should have any of that, anything in that regard. He was saying that they are the reflection of the tree, because they may seem so beautiful and well done up, whereas the devotee is the shadow of the tree. But the main point is that the shadow of the tree is connected to the tree. It's affiliated with the tree, whereas the reflection of the tree is just like an illusion. It's separate from the tree. It's not connected to the tree. It's not a part of the tree. So I tried to reiterate that as best as I could, but
Interesting.
Anyway, that's thinking of when you're talking about resemblance and devotee resembles and personalism and things like that.
Interesting. All right. Grant Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai.